Okay, it is 9 p.m. on the East Coast, and I am not on the East Coast. Hello, hello. Anybody here? Okay, gonna hope that somebody is out there. Hi, Trina. Hi, Dan. Yay. Hi, Jackie. And Connie. Oh, together. Okay, we got some friends joining us here. Whoa, I am outside right now, as you may be able to tell. It is light out, which means I am not on the East Coast, and I am on the West Coast. Well, not quite to the West Coast, but in Western time zone. Anyway, I just want to, hey, Bob. Oh my gosh, how much fun is that? Good to see everybody. I'm going to quit looking over there. I am outside, and I hope that you can hear me all right. I am using, hi Dan, first time here. I'm using this handy dandy little microphone. It's kind of loud out there, but hopefully you'll be able to hear me. It's too dark inside, so I can't go in there. Anyway, welcome. I am really excited tonight, and I've just been kind of skimming through some stuff I've been reading lately that I wanted to share with you guys. And I want to, first of all, make sure that I give thanks to Yvonne McCarthy and Laura Preston, who are my backup people and help me out in all kinds of ways, and particularly with this program. Food addiction, firm and fair. Now, if you have an addiction of any kind, you know it's not fair. It's not fair that you are the one that has this. And I know that we've talked a lot of times about if you have a food addiction, you really feel like it's not fair, right? Anyway, so addiction isn't fair. Life isn't fair. But if addiction is your thing, if you are an addict, if you have accepted and come to the awareness that you are an addict, then you know that it's real. Food addiction is real. And the way to recovery, the way to healing from addiction is by living in the moment, learning skills, living mindfully, being in the moment. We talked last week about the wonderful little story about the precious present. I love that story, and I hope that some of you went out and read the actual book. All right, everybody can hear me okay? Okay. I'm going to just hold this little microphone tonight so that I make sure the wind doesn't interfere. All right. So tonight, I want to talk about the topic that I chose, or the sentence that I chose for tonight's topic was, I can't, but it can be done. Now, I stole this from the AA, the OA literature that says, I can't, he can, let him. He and him in this case refer to God. Now, I'm not trying to convert you to any religion or denomination or to believe in God. It doesn't matter to me one way or another. The idea is maybe you feel like you just haven't been able to get to that abstinence place, right? Maybe you feel like I just can't do this. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried. We've talked about that. So when I was getting ready tonight, I was pondering and I was thinking, you know the saying, ready, willing, and able? Well, you know, I've done at least 5,000 bariatric evaluations for people getting ready to have weight loss surgery. And probably in 4,000 of them at least, people have said to me, I am so ready. I am so ready this time, even though many people, most people, in fact, who have had weight loss surgery, are going to have weight loss surgery, have gained and lost weight a number of times. But they swear to me that this time they are ready. Then we move to the topic of willing. Are you willing? Dr. Stapleton, I promise you, I am willing to do whatever it takes. I'm willing to give up carbs. Hello. I'm willing to give up sugar. Maybe at that time you weren't thinking in the terms of food addiction, but if you're joining us here, chances are you have recognized that you have a food addiction. And we've talked for the last 12 weeks about how abstinence is necessary. You cannot find healing from addiction. You cannot find a healthy life in recovery from addiction if you are not abstinent from whatever the substances are that hold you captive, right? Addiction hijacks your brain. We've talked about that too. And it's like you are a prisoner of this awful disease. So until you give up the whatever it is that you're addicted to, you can't have a clear mind to think how to make good decisions, how to live in a way that's doing the next wise thing, right? So, are you willing? Yes, I'm willing. Well, now that you know you're an addict, are you still willing? We've talked about this for weeks and weeks and weeks, about the resistance, about the fear, about the emotion, about facing life on life's terms. And a lot of people are truly afraid of that. Are you willing? Are you ready? You thought you were ready. You thought you were willing. If you're answering those two and you think you're being honest, and maybe you are, I can't judge that. If you think you're willing, if you think you're ready, are you able? Maybe you haven't been able to do this, to go to a place of abstinence from, for most people, again, it's sugar and simple carbs and that sort of thing. But maybe you haven't been able because you've been trying to do this on your own. It's not going to work that way, my friends. So in recovery, in the 12-step programs at least, and this is just the 12-step programs, and you don't have to be a fan of the 12 steps. You know I am, but you don't have to be. But I want you to be open-minded to listen to the wisdom that comes from the different programs, not just the 12-step programs. Maybe you're a fan of smart recovery. That's fine by me too. But there's wisdom to be had and shared no matter what your, if it's Celebrate Recovery, wherever you go for support, but you have to have support. So let me ask you this. If you're ready to be free of the bondage of addiction, if you're willing to do the abstinence, are you willing to ask for help? Now, if you don't believe in God, maybe the higher power aspect that they talk about in the 12-step programs is your group. Maybe it's your support group. Maybe it's your bariatric support group. Maybe it's your online bariatric friends. Are you willing to ask for help? Part of the reason I'm questioning this, honestly, is because there are over 300 people in the food addiction fair and firm group on Facebook, and maybe 10 or 15 people posting there or ask questions, seek help. That makes me wonder, where are you at in the ready, willing, and able trifecta? Because you really have to have all three if you want to heal from addiction, if you want to find a healthier life and live in recovery from addiction. So let's talk about what the 12 steps talks about in terms of, seeking a higher power. And I will reiterate this as many times as it takes, because to me, it doesn't matter if your higher power is the internet and the information and support you find on the internet, if it is AA, if it's Celebrate Recovery, if it's Smart Recovery, if it's reading. But we're not meant to do this alone. I do not think we are able to do this alone. We have to stop relying on self-control and willpower, because that is not what recovery is about. It's about joining a community. It's about seeking help. It's about reaching out and helping others. And I was fervently looking for this post, and I thought that Marta had posted it, but I couldn't find it. I'm going to find it, and I'm going to post it on my page. But it was about how we learn things. And so much of our own learning is by sharing what we've learned with others. And sharing what we've learned with others and speaking it and teaching it is one of the best reinforcers to ourselves about how we learn things and implement them in our lives. So if you think what I'm doing is completely altruistic, well, you know that's not true. Because every time I spend time sharing with you what I have learned from other people in the last 28 years in my own recovery programs, I'm reinforcing it to myself. I'm hearing myself saying it, I'm sharing it with you, and I say to myself, am I living this to the fullest of my ability as well? So it really helps me keep myself in line. So when people say, you're doing that for free, you should really be charging money for that. Oh no. I get as much out of this and maybe more than you do at times. So recovery is not meant to be done alone. Now, I do believe in God, and you may or may not believe in God. If you believe in God, then sometimes you need to humble yourself and say, can you help me? Can you please help me? This is bigger than I am. If you don't believe in God, use your group as a higher power and do the same dang thing and say, you know what? I need your help. This disease of addiction is so much bigger than I am, and it is so much more powerful than I am or ever will be. No amount of willpower is going to conquer the disease of addiction. So you have to reach out. You have to have skill power. Remember, we talked about that in one of the earlier episodes. You have to have skill power, and the only way to develop those skills is to learn from other people and then to share that information with other people and hear yourself teaching. So all of this is what I mean when I say immerse yourself. I was reading a little bit in the Overeaters Anonymous book tonight about, seeking a higher power or asking others for support. And I love this. It's kind of humorous, I thought. This is straight from the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions of Overeaters Anonymous. Short little couple of sentences. It says, many of us had asked God to help us control our weight, and the prayer hadn't worked. Later, we understood why our pleas for help seemed to fall on deaf ears. What we were really asking God to do was to remove our fat while allowing us to go on eating whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted. So you may have noticed that today on Facebook, I posted, it doesn't work both ways. We cannot have it both ways. We cannot eat whatever we want, whenever we want, and expect to be a healthy weight. It just doesn't work that way. But is that what you were hoping for when you chose to have weight loss surgery? Somewhere in the back of your mind, did you hope maybe you could eat what you want, but you wouldn't be eating as much of it, and you would be able to keep your weight off? Well, most of you found out that that doesn't work. The majority of people who have weight loss surgery or don't have weight loss surgery but struggle with obesity, metabolic syndrome, which is a complex set of physiological circumstances that mean you gain weight easily and it's real tough to lose it. And most people who fall into this category have a real problem with carbs. So people say, I'll just have weight loss surgery, I'll eat what I want, I'll just eat less of it and I'll be fine. And what they end up with is regain. In fact, the bariatric center where I work had a commercial on the radio. It may even have been on television. And there was a patient giving her testimony, and she said exactly these words, or maybe not exactly, but pretty darn close. I had weight loss surgery, and now I eat what I want, just less of it. Oh my gosh, I about had a fit. And I went to the surgeon and I said, we need to get that off the air. That is absolute incorrect information, and it's propaganda. Because anybody who struggles with weight loss and regain repeatedly and repeatedly and repeatedly knows that that's not the truth. If you're a food addict and you reintroduce to any degree, any amount of food that triggers your brain and causes the brain fog, you're done. It's over. The addiction takes control, and you are not going to win this fight. So, are you ready? Are you willing? And are you able? You are not able to do this alone, I will promise you. So back to what the OA book says. It says most of us also need to learn to ask other people for help. That is not a commodity in the bariatric world. People aren't turning to people right and left and saying, could you help me? Could you help me? Could you help me? And sometimes when they do ask for help, what they're wanting to hear is, this is how you eat whatever you want, lose weight. So when you come to the conclusion, when you come to the awareness, when you come to the acceptance, when your attitude gets right, yes, I'm applying the 4 ACEs that we talk about. When you realize that it's not going to happen, you can't eat what you want when you want and keep your weight at a healthy level. When you come to realize that if that's what you're asking people to help you with, there is no answer to that. When you realize that the only way to find healing in recovery is to surrender, meaning give up the willpower, give up the control, ask God or other people who can serve as your higher power to give you some help, some real help. So if you are willing, if you're ready, if you choose to ask other people for help, you can get some information, some inspiration maybe. You can hear God if you believe God. You can hear a higher power of some sort speak to you through other people, right? You can hear more wisdom than you have by yourself when you attend OA meetings or you attend bariatric support group meetings or you participate in online support. So there are all kinds of ways to get healing power from sources and powers more powerful than yourself. But you've got to be willing to reach out and use them. All right. So I'm also reading a book called The Art of Happiness. And it is written by the Dalai Lama, along with an American psychiatrist whose name I can't remember right now, and I feel bad about that, but I will give him credit on my page. But I'm really liking this book much more. Well, I didn't really have too much preconceived idea about what it was going to be about, but I really, really like it. And partly what I like about it is a lot of what they're talking about. You know, they're talking about the Eastern philosophies, the Western philosophies, the similarities, the differences. But it's about finding happiness. And I'm going to write a whole series of blog posts about this because it's so pertinent to this weight loss and food addiction and all addictions. One of the things the Dalai Lama says is that sometimes people confuse happiness with pleasure. And I love this because when we talk about eating food and we think food makes me happy. I eat when I'm upset because it makes me happy. I eat when I'm sad because food makes me happy. Guess what? It doesn't make you happy. It brings you pleasure. And I want you to really ponder the difference between pleasure and happiness, because pleasure typically has to do with our senses, right? It tastes good, it feels good, it smells good, it looks good, we use our senses to enjoy the pleasures that the world has to offer. But is that the same thing as happiness, which is more of an inner peace? Remember, the precious present was all about living in the moment and enjoying being in that moment and fully appreciate what's happening in that moment. So food does not bring us happiness. Food may bring you pleasure, but don't confuse the two. So when you are in a moment and your instinct, your habit, your conditioned behavior is to turn to food, think about, will this bring me pleasure or will this bring me happiness? And what is it that I'm really wanting in life? Sure, we want both, but ultimately, happiness is much more sustaining. Happiness is going to get us through the good times and the bad. Remember about in this moment, all is well. And for most people in our lives, most moments, things are pretty okay if we choose to let them be. Now, there are times when a loved one passes or there is an accident or a horrific natural disaster, and those moments don't feel okay. But when we run out of gas or we, get chewing out from our boss, things are really okay. It's not a catastrophe, but we really do tend to catastrophize quite a bit because, then I have an excuse to eat because I think it'll bring me happiness. But guess what? It doesn't. So happiness is living in the present. It has nothing to do with eating. It has to do with appreciating what you do have in your life that is good and being grateful for it. Dear God, it's getting deep in here tonight, isn't it? But it's all really true. Okay, another thing that is in this book, The Art of Happiness, that comes straight from the Dalai Lama himself is that the first step to happiness is learning. Do you know how much joy I got from hearing that? Because I spend so much of my time learning and teaching that I'm like, yeah, you have to learn new skills. It's not about willpower, it's about skill power. When I say immerse yourself in recovery, I talk about reading, talking to other people, finding a sponsor, talking to people who have been abstinent from sugar and carbs, talking to them about how they do it, how they feel, learning coping skills, broadening your repertoire, learning about things like happiness and what it's truly about, learning about where your attitudes came from, learning about healthy communication skills, learning about how to set boundaries, learning about how to get through cravings, learning. It's the first step to happiness because guess what? You only got what you got. You don't know what you don't know. So we got to learn new things. If what we've got, what we know is not working for us, is not helping us, then we need to learn some more things. In this business of recovery, in this journey of healing from addiction, I encourage people to build a toolkit with as many tools as they can get their hands on, because what works for one person is not going to work for another person. It doesn't hit home. It doesn't, it doesn't fit the bill. But you find the things that work for you, the things that help you remain abstinent, because without abstinence, there's no further journey in the recovery process. And the things that help you learn skills, learn healthy techniques, learn healthy ways to live, learning how to live on life's terms, meaning dealing with whatever's going on in your life in a healthy way. Learn to refrain from self-sabotage. Learn to set yourself up for good choices and good health. Asking yourself, what's my meaningful matter? What matters the most to me in the area of my recovery, my health, my relationships? What's most meaningful to me? And is this, whatever I'm going to do here, moving me closer to or further from? In effect, that's what the Dalai Lama is saying, right? Is this pleasurable moment, whether it's a roll in the hay, whether it's, binge watching something on TV, whether it's eating, whether it's drugs, with this hit of cocaine, whatever it is that will bring me pleasure in the moment, will it lead me toward happiness or further from happiness? So it's kind of the same thing, and you want to go toward happiness. You want to go toward what's meaningful to you, what matters the most. All right. I'm going to read to you another passage from the book, The Art of Happiness, and it talks about the importance of other people and our connection to other people. And then I'll tell you something that finally clicked for me. It's something that you hear all of your adult life anyway, and I could never quite grasp what it meant. And something clicked. And that's how it works in this field of recovery too. You'll hear something, you'll hear something, you'll hear something, you'll hear something. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I get that. I'm going to use that. So in the book, the psychiatrist is kind of the narrator, and he makes comments and quotes from what the Dalai Lama says. And here's a paragraph from the Dalai Lama. He was speaking to a group in Arizona. He says, "The other day, I spoke about the factors necessary to enjoy a happy and joyful life. Factors such as good health, material goods, friends, and so on. If you closely investigate, you'll find that all of these depend on other people. To maintain good health, you rely on medicines made by others and healthcare provided by others. If you examine all the material facilities that you use for the enjoyment of life, you'll find that there are hardly any of these material objects that have had no connection with other people. If you think carefully, you'll see that all of these goods come into being as the result of the efforts of many people, either directly or indirectly. Many people are involved in making those things possible. Needless to say, when we're talking about good friends and companions as being another necessary factor for a happy life, we are talking about interaction with other beings, other human beings. That all applies to what we're trying to do in our lives of recovery. But we have to be ready, willing, and able to reach out and connect with other people, because we cannot and never will be able to do this on our own. And the thing that really struck me was what the psychiatrist wrote about following this paragraph. And he said, and this is where I was too. It was like, you hear a lot about all things interconnected, everything's, one, everything's. And I was like, I don't really get it. I don't really get how everything is interconnected. And the guy was talking about, he was pulling a string or a thread on the shirt he was wearing. And so he talked about the shirt he was wearing and the hundreds and thousands of people that were involved in the making of this one shirt. Starting with, whoever planted the cotton, and then the tractors who plowed the fields, and all the millions of people who went into designing and creating and building the parts for those tractors, and then the picking of the cotton, and then the shipping of the cotton, and then the treatment of the cotton, and then the fabric making, and then whoever had to cut the fabric and sew the fabric and put the button. Think about it. We didn't just go buy a shirt. We bought something that was touched by the hands of so many other people. And when I share with you what I share with you that I have learned in recovery, it's not just touched by the hands and lips and hearts and spirits of those people who directly shared their stories and their information and their knowledge and their wisdom with me. It's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands and millions of people back to the beginning of time, because wisdom has been shared in all cultures. And the truth of the matter is, much of the same wisdom is being shared in most cultures. And so I shared with you another time that when I read about dieting or couples counseling or whatever it is, I read as many things as I can find on it. And I look look for the grains of similarity in all of it, because I really think that the grains of similarity are probably the closest thing to truth that we're going to find. And a truth around the world is that we need other people. And so in your recovery, you need other people. So please use the resources that are available to you. There are meetings. There are all kinds of recovery meetings. There are all kinds of support groups online. Perhaps you joined the Food Addiction Fair and Firm group online. Please use it. Okay, we have so much to offer one another because we all have wisdom that we have gained over the years that we can share with others. So that's a lot of stuff, man. My head is spinning just a little bit. And let me tell you one thing, and I don't very often promote much of the things that I make money from, because this part of my work is to share with you. But I do want you to know that I do a group that is online and in person if you happen to live in the Augusta area. But it's a way to learn. I'm telling you, I wish this were a class. It's called Living Life Better, living life more efficiently, living life more fully, living life more happy. Because it takes you on a journey through your life where we clean out closets and look at things that you haven't been willing to discuss. You don't have to share it with anybody in this class. You do homework on your own. And then if you have a therapist or a trusted friend, then you take that and you talk it over with them. But there's homework that goes along. And the second half of the class is just chock full of skills and tools for communication and setting boundaries and finding coping skills and having what they now call emotional, what the heck do they call it? Can't even remember the psychology term, but it's, not overreacting and losing your crap in public and not losing your crap in private, but being, oh God, I can't even think of it. Anyway, shoot, now my mind's going there. But anyway, it's about dealing with life in healthy ways on life's terms. Changing your thinking from stinking thinking to positive thinking. It's just a really good course. And if you think you can't afford it, let me remind you, I don't do well with excuses, right? And that's an excuse for all but very few people, okay? If you need to do a payment plan, do a payment plan, but there is no excuse. How much money did you spend eating out every week? How much money did you spend on diet programs? I'm not buying it. So anyway, that's an amazing class, and it starts in September on the 11th, which happens to be my birthday. So that would be a fun way for us to share and celebrate together. So I'm hoping you'll join us, and a really amazing thing about this program is once you do this program and you do pay for it one time, then you can do it the next 10 times it's offered, and you don't have to pay another dime. And I do that because I want you to get it. And sometimes you have to have it repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated before you go, oh yeah, that makes sense to me. So that's an invitation. I hope you'll take me up on it. Great learning, great support, because there's a Facebook group for all the people who have been through that class as well. So that's it for tonight. This video will be posted on my website, ConnieStapletonPhD.com, and my YouTube channel, Connie Stapleton. So it's still early in the evening here. I'm going to go do some more work on another project that I'm working on for the bariatric community that I'm really having fun with. So I will talk to you when we do. And remember, your health is your responsibility this day and every single day that you have the absolute pleasure and blessing to get to enjoy. So take care, share with one another. You have a lot to offer, and you are worth taking care of yourself. All right. Good night, my friends. Have a good one. Make it a good one.